Hello everyone, this is part 12 of What If Naruto was in the 7 Ninja Swordsman, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Kushina calmly walked through Kirigakure's cemetery, glancing at the hundreds of respectfully maintained graves, with each having the unique marking and the details of the shinobi that s. The place was nearly empty this early in the morning, and a few moments later she found the man she was searching for standing exactly in front of the memorial stone. A fond smile couldn't stop itself from arriving on her lips as her prediction about his whereabouts came true. In some ways, he was quite predictable, or maybe she knew him more than others did. She stepped beside him and saw him calmly glancing at the names on the stone, with the recent one of Ino Namikaze engraved in stark words. It had been 2 days since he told her about what the Mizukage had offered him. Naturally she was floored, and so was the Azu leadership, as their wildest dream was coming true. They had given an official order to him to accept the position at all costs. She had seen his misgivings on this matter, yet for all his faults, he was a loyal shinobi who always followed his orders. Kushina herself was quite stunned yesterday when she watched majority of the Mist Village rejoice when Genjutsu made the announcement public once Naruto gave his consent. Not everybody was satisfied, especially the Kaguya and Hagoromo clans, but to their surprise the villagers actually were happy with this decision, and she couldn't blame them. A warm smile came on her face as she looked at him for a long moment and understood what the Mizukage had seen in him. He was young, powerful, a fine shinobi, and probably the finest commander that Kiri had seen in its entire history. Most importantly, he was a good man who actually cared about the people around him and had the strength to stand up for what was right, no matter the odds against him. Good morning, Lord Third, she teased him with a mischievous smile. Not you too. Don't make me feel old, he protested with a weak smile. Don't tell me you are not happy, said Kushina with a frown. It's not that. I don't think I am ready for this, maybe a few years later. I have a lot to learn about the world. Being a Kage is no easy task. Maybe I would have been a better choice as Lord Fourth instead. I don't know why, but Third makes me feel like I came last in a race or something, he explained with an amused laugh. Now that you mention it, maybe you do have a point. Naruto Namikaze, the 4th Mizukage, sounds more cooler, she teased him. You seem to be in a happy mood today, he commented, but not unkindly, earning a nonchalant shrug from her. It's because I am happy for you. Now you actually have a chance to change this world for the better. Isn't that what our fallen comrades would have wanted? Asked Kushina gently. Her words made him glance at the memorial stone, and his thoughts wandered towards the Spartans. Even today, it pained him when he remembered how they were so easily. He had been so angry and helpless all these years at the Azukage and the elders for what they did. In his darkest fantasies, he had imagined making them pay for their crimes and creating a world where young children were never forced into that kind of hell. This will change things, Kushina. He looked at her when she placed a firm hand on his shoulder and saw her giving him a knowing gaze. I know it will, and it won't be easy. But I know you'll do what's best for Azu and Kiri, because that is the kind of man you are, said Kushina confidently. Some will call such thoughts treasonous back in Azu, he warned her, earning a bitter look from the redhead beauty. Our village has its flaws just like Kiri has its own. Family, duty, honor. I know the oath we made is a proof of our loyalty to our village. Yet it also defines the kind of person each of us aspires to be. It is why I want you to continue working for Azu, but at the same time also do what you can to make this village a better place. Develop bonds of friendship and trust between these two nations, as you are the link that can bring them together, even Konoha. Maybe the other villages too if we are lucky someday, said Kushina with a hopeful smile. You have an awful lot of faith in me, replied Naruto with a nervous smile, earning a saucy wink from her that made him skip a heartbeat instantly. What can I say? I have a thing for handsome blonde men. She burst out laughing hysterically when he blushed slightly, making him instantly his hand over her mouth, which in turn made her blush as she realized how ridiculous she must have looked laughing like that in a cemetery of all places. He gently lowered her hand when her laughter down completely, and her heartbeat became faster when she realized how close they were. A part of her heart was disappointed when he stepped back respectfully, and another couldn't help but admire his loyalty when he glanced at Ino's name on the stone, which made him feel quite guilty judging by the look on his face. You really love her, don't you? Asked Kushina with a pained smile. I was in a dark place when I met her. So angry, so sad and in pain I was. There were many times when I lashed out at her, but she never gave up on me. She always encouraged me to never lose hope, to never give up, to fight for a future that would someday be ours to live in peace. Yet here I am today, in line to become a Kage, powerful enough to change things in this world, and she is not here with me, lamented Naruto in a whisper. Kushina understood his pain better than anyone else. If he actually became Mizukage, he would be bound to this village for a long time. Perhaps forever. Unlike a ninja commander who could go out on missions, most Kages were entrusted with their village's safety and usually resided there most of the time. They only went out in events of war, calamity, or important meetings with other world leaders, which was very rare. I failed everyone in my life. Now probably I'll fail as a husband and a father too. For once, she had no comfort to offer him, as no words could heal the pain he would probably endure for the rest of his life. Yet again she was surprised when he clenched his fist and a determined look arrived in his eyes as he glanced back at her. Even so, I will create a better world, a brighter future. For her, for my child, for you and for these villages. A world where failures like me are never born. He promised fiercely. With a heavy heart she watched him walk away, and only one thought continued to echo in her soul. This cruel world needs more good men like you, Minato. When will you realize this truth? It was mid-afternoon when he casually walked through the chaotic markets of Kirigakure, trying to politely return the greetings given to him by a lot of people. Actually, if he thought his victory in bringing down the lightning daimyo made him famous, the announcement of him actually being next in line of becoming Mizukage had boosted his fame to unforeseen levels. Although it made things quite awkward, as he couldn't enjoy the peace he used to get most of the time before in public. It would be a week before his next important mission, and it was actually a relief since his apartment was a mess which he needed to take care of urgently. Ino would have had a heart attack if she could see the state it was in. Only now did he realize how much of crappy roommate he must have been to live with. Granted, he was a powerful shinobi, but in normal life, he was quite the slacker. His cooking was awful in every way except for the fact that he could make decent ramen. He rarely liked doing house cleaning, his sense of fashion was awful, and he hated shopping most of all. All in all, he was quite the lazy bum. The thought of it made him smile amusedly and truly appreciate just how much Ino had been there for him all these years. She tried to make him a normal human being, but to no avail, yet that didn't make her hate him. Instead, she cooked for him every day, did most of the cleaning except when he joined her in washing dishes. His crisp attire was all thanks to her keen sense of fashion mixed with the shrewdness of an actual ninja, and she ensured to drag his lazy ass at least once a month for boring shopping. Now without her, he felt broken and lost. He again looked at the list of items he had made which he had to buy. It ranged from small food items, washing powder, a pair of sandals, a few new kitchen utensils, and so much more. Nervously, he glanced at the dozens upon dozens of shops, stalls, most of which were selling the items he was looking for. The problem was that he didn't remember which were the best ones to buy from. He thought about calling Kushina for help but dismissed that thought instantly. Not only was it dangerous for them to be seen in such a public place, she would literally laugh her ass off at his helplessness. I'm so screwed, he whispered with a defeated sigh. Naruto. He blinked. Turning around, he saw Mei standing a few feet away from him with a surprised look on her face. Relief spread through the blonde as he literally made a beeline towards the only female he could trust right now to not embarrass him. Yo. Mei was again surprised by his casual way of greeting, which was something she had never seen before, and he recognized that too, being the observant shinobi that he was. What are you doing here? She asked him curiously. When he scratched the back of his head and gave her a nervous smile, she leaned in closer and gave him a suspicious look. Who are you and what have you done to the Naruto I know? His spirit was crushed instantly and his shoulders slumped with a dark cloud hovering above his head until Mei burst out laughing, which made him look up at her only to freeze. Her beautiful and long auburn hair were flowing freely in the air and her fair skin radiated in the sunlight. She was wearing a pretty blue dress which fit her in just the perfect places. He felt quite embarrassed when she caught him staring, which made him avert his gaze instantly with a blush. May was at a complete loss of words as it felt like she was looking at a different person right now. One who was totally unrecognizable from the brave and powerful commander she knew. Yeah, this is the real me. A clumsy fool who doesn't even know how to shop properly. Quite lame, huh? He asked with a sheepish smile, even as he looked at the list he was carrying like a holy book that he had to protect at all costs. He blinked when she simply gave him a heartwarming smile in return. No, it's quite all right, she said with a kind smile. Why? He asked curiously. I finally got to see the real person behind that shinobi mask. He relaxed and gave her a thankful nod in return. She then calmly gestured towards his list and he offered it to her without hesitation. After a moment's pause, she looked back at him with a confident gaze. She asked him about his budget and once he revealed the same, she patiently and slowly pointed out each of the shops from where he could get his respective items at a reasonable cost and with good quality. She also told him to be firm in bargaining with the shopkeepers and not to fall for their inflated prices. I'm actually a terrible negotiator. Ino always used to be horrified when I usually paid whatever was charged, he said with a sheepish smile. You're a lazy bum, that's all. She scolded him with a disapproving gaze. Then I could surely use your help. Would you come with me, just for a little while please? At first, she smiled on hearing his request only to deflate and look away in silence a moment later. She looked back at him again only to see him giving her that same warm and polite smile. He probably hadn't seen the glares thrown her way the moment she stepped inside the market. It only became worse when he actually came to talk to her. Naruto, it's not right for you to be seen with me like this. I may, she whispered sadly. Her eyes widened in utter shock when he simply offered her his arm like a gentleman with a polite smile. She pleaded with him silently, nearly begging him to look towards the glares and whispers that were increasing, but he didn't back down. When she still hesitated, he gently grasped her hand, causing few old women to gasp and many younger ones to glare jealously. The men also looked quite disapproving. Suddenly aura descended upon the entire area, which made many freak out and tremble in fear. He glanced back at the crowd with a cold and overly sweet smile. Is there a problem? May could only watch in sheer amazement when instantly people started looking away from them and minding their own business. Sure, quite a few stole glances, but none dared to glare or even whisper as his cold gaze dared them to and face consequences in the event they actually did. There you see, no problem. I could really use your help now though, he whispered with a shy smile. Why go so far for someone like me? She asked with a tearful gaze. Because now I have also seen the wonderful person behind that mask of a Jinchuriki. His words touched something within her heart, washing away all the sadness she had felt and replaced it with a true feeling of pride and happiness. I can never win an argument against you, can I? She asked with a fond smile. Nope, he shrugged mischievously. She yelped in surprise when he grabbed her hand and for the next few hours dragged her nearly across the entire market. In the end, he ended up buying more things than he wanted, which only made him laugh even more. May could not help but look at him fondly as this entire time he never left her side once, challenged anyone that tried to look at her the wrong way and walked beside her proudly. Apart from her father, no one else had ever done something like this for her. Her happiness soon turned into embarrassment when her stomach growled loudly in protest, which made him smile. Come on, I may be a terrible shopper, but I at least know one good ramen place. What do you say? My treat for all the help you gave me today. He asked her with a hopeful look. A part of her heart didn't want him to get into any more trouble with the villagers for being around her, but another more selfish part was enjoying each and every moment of this eventful day. In the end, she could not say no to him, certainly not when he gave her that infectious smile. May curiously watched him finish off his third bowl of miso ramen with the same level of enthusiasm that he had for the first one. She on the other hand was content with being able to finish the large bowl of shoyu ramen in front of her. He looked lost in his own world while eating what was probably his favorite food. Granted, it was not that healthy and was just one of the food items people love to eat occasionally. Would you like to order more? I swear they have a few more awesome dishes, he encouraged with a happy smile. No, I'm quite full, she declined politely. You sure? I think you have eaten more than enough for the both of us. Her quirky remark made him look at all the food he had just devoured, which only made him chuckle heartily. Mei could only enjoy this small moment in absolute bliss until he saw her staring at him, which made her immediately avert her gaze. Is there something on my face? He asked curiously, but she shook her head. No, it's just I always imagined you in a different way in real life, she confessed, earning an understanding nod from him. Well, I am a mysterious man, he teased with a mischievous wink, making her scoff jovially at that reply while he laughed at her reaction. They enjoyed a few moments of silence before she bit her lip nervously before gathering the courage to ask a question she was not sure would go down well with him. I'm glad you are happy again, Naruto. But are you truly all right? She asked, and regretted it instantly when his bright smile disappeared. It was then she caught a glimpse of the sorrow and guilt he was trying so hard to hide behind his smiles and laughter. I'm trying to be. That was all anyone could do in his situation, and she respected his resolve. I'm glad you'll be the next leader of this village, Lord Third, she congratulated him honestly, adding the last bit in a teasing tone in an effort to make their chat more enjoyable than where it was headed. Could people stop calling me that? Lord Second is still in charge and very capable of looking after this village, he reminded her. Mei rolled her eyes at that remark as she had gained a decent understanding of his attitude. You just don't want to do all the paperwork. That too. She smirked at his honest but quirky answer until she caught sight of a few ninja entering the ramen stand who all frowned when they saw her sitting at one of the tables. They were about to say something mean judging from the nasty looks until they caught sight of a blonde peeking at them from the opposite side of the table. The entire group was out of the place in an instant when they caught a glance of those cold blue eyes. You don't have to defend me, Naruto. I'm used to it by now, she tried to protest, if only to save his image among fellow shinobi, but he glared at her. People could be stupid sometimes. On one hand, the great villagers value the power of a biju, but the same people hate those of their countrymen who keep those beasts in check and use their power for their protection. More stupid is the way how the entire world knows the idini of Jinchuriki in nearly every village. Why would you make the information of such a powerful and important ninja public for your enemies to exploit? Asked Naruto in an bitter tone. What do you think of people like me, Naruto? Asked Mei honestly with a straight face. I think there are better ways to protect the hidden villages than blatantly people by making them the hosts of such beasts and then hypocritically fearing or hating them just because of the beast inside of them, he answered confidently. You think you can change the way this world works? She asked seriously. I have to try, because if not us then who? He challenged her. She gave a respectful nod for his determination, but he could see she was not yet convinced. Why do you think the people today chose not to scorn you openly? He asked. Because you were there and they have more respect for you, she answered without conviction, making him give her an amused smile. Maybe for a few, but for most of them, they know I can crush them into dust if they dare go against me. Even more so if I actually become the next leader of this village. Weak pups barking won't change anything. Never take S from anyone and be proud of who you are. If they don't accept that, make them. Mei was quite surprised by his philosophy but could see a glimmer of truth in it, judging from the way nobody had dared to bother her because he was there. But wouldn't such a way only turn more people against you? She asked curiously. I'm not advocating abusing or terrorizing of people by your hands just because you're stronger than them. That's what a tyrant does, but at the same time you must understand that humans often like to break the rules if they think they can get away with it. That's the animalistic nature in each of us, it's why we have rules and laws to prevent such anarchy. Why do you think they antagonize you so openly and not Lord Yagura, who is also a Jinchuriki? Questioned Naruto. Because Yagura crippled the few idiots permanently that tried to bully him when he was young just because of the beast inside him, she replied swiftly, as that story had been quite a scandal a few years ago. Yagura had to pay reparations to those whom he had injured and give a public apology for his conduct. His clan also lost face in the village to an extent, however no further action was taken against him. In fact, the villagers never tried anything of such nature ever again and started giving Yagura some respect, if only to keep their heads. Realization dawned upon her as she understood what he was trying to explain. Maybe you don't have such a high opinion of yourself, but that should stay within yourself or with those whom you trust unconditionally. For the rest of the public, appear nothing but a strong and dedicated ninja of Kirigakure. Teach a lesson to anyone who suggests otherwise and the others would soon fall in line. You are the heir of the Terumi clan and a friend of the next Mizukage. Remind those idiots of this fact if they still don't listen, he said with a warm smile. I will. Thank you for explaining this to me, Naruto. I wanted to avoid conflict with my own people, but there is no harm in standing up for yourself, said Mei with a proud nod. Why did you become a Jinchuriki? You don't have to answer, and I'm sorry for asking a personal question like this, said Naruto hesitantly, but she gave him a reassuring smile in return. My mother was the previous host of the Six Tails. Despite her status, my father fell in love with her. It was quite the controversy, and he was nearly banished from his own clan for that transgression. Lord Genjutsu was the only one that supported my parents and was the one that convinced my grandfather and my clan to accept it. My father never forgot, and it is why he backed Lord Genjutsu when he was being considered to be made Lord Second, and is loyal to him to this day. Eventually my parents were married and enjoyed a few years of bliss until my mother got pregnant. Naruto had maintained his silence and only observed the series of emotions she was going through while reciting her past. He hid his own surprise well and instead only gave her an encouraging smile which made her continue. At the time of my birth, her seal broke and the beast nearly broke free until it was sealed into me by Lord Genjutsu in an emergency ritual, as I had a strong chakra like my mother, powerful enough to tame the beast. Besides, based on past experience, female hosts are more easy to control, remain loyal to the village more than their male counterparts. My weakened mother was not able to handle all that stress and that night, whispered Mei sadly with tears arriving in her eyes. She remembered how many had scorned her as a person who her own mother while arriving in this world, even some of her own clan members. Her father had defended her in every way possible, but she couldn't help but feel it was the truth deep in her heart. Your mother must have loved you dearly, Mei. She looked back at him in shock, which made him place a comforting hand over her own trembling one. She endured all that unimaginable pain but never once stopped fighting. She fought with every ounce of her strength to protect this village, her husband, her clan, and most of all her beloved daughter from the Six Tails. Mothers are powerful, your existence is proof enough of the love she had for you, explained Naruto with a bittersweet smile, as he couldn't help but remember his own mother who was protecting him and his brother along with the zoo. Tears fell from Mei's eyes as she realized just what her father had been trying to explain to her all these years, only she was too stubborn to accept it. People always called her a monster, no matter where she went or what good she did. Eventually, she started believing it too and wondered how could a woman like her mother love a monster like Mei herself. Thank you, Naruto. She meant it truly, which only made him smile as she wiped away her own tears. What about your family? She asked hesitantly. She had always wondered about his past and what made him become the person he was today. She could never imagine herself as the last person of her clan. It was a fate she didn't wish upon anyone, not even the Kaguya whom she hated. When he didn't say anything for a few moments, she decided to apologize for asking such a personal question. I had parents and a younger brother. She was relieved when he whispered that truth and gently stroked his hand that he had initially placed over her own to comfort her. We lived in our small village alongside people that trusted our family. The first great ninja war started at that time and my father's in one of the attacks. Our clan's enemies eventually discovered us and my mother's her life so my brother and I could escape to safety. Ultimately the remaining survivors of the Namikaze clan decided to make one final stand against its enemies, us brothers included. I wanted to revenge my parents and enlisted. My brother followed in my footsteps. In the final battle, we crushed the enemy but were annihilated as well. My brother gave his life to save my own, explained Naruto somberly. She watched as his familiar dark chakra was released from his body in a tiny proportion. As it flowed in his arm, she saw him gazing at him sadly. All that's left of my brother is his chakra that clings to me. All that's left of my family and clan are the memories in my heart. Cherish your family, Mei, he advised her with a sad smile. I'm so sorry, Naruto, she whispered sadly, earning a thankful nod from her. In a way, he had given her the partial truth and was glad to not have lied to her completely. Even after all these years, how can your brother's chakra still cling to you? She asked curiously, looking at the dark chakra in his hand. My greatest strength is my ability to absorb chakra from nearly anyone. My brother gave me his and it eventually became a part of my own body. It's a power unique to me, he confessed. It was why he was chosen for the Spartan program and made its leader eventually. With his ability, he was the perfect super soldier who could continue fighting for days or weeks so long as there were strong ninjas whose chakra he could steal or receive. Nagato had the ash release, but eventually Naruto himself was able to manifest this power by making his brother's chakra a part of his own network. Even now, he could still feel faint traces of Hashirama, Tobirama and Mito Uzumaki's chakra inside his body, one that they had given him in an effort to save his life on that fateful night. Your family would be proud of what you have achieved today, Naruto, encouraged Mai sincerely. He only gave her faint smile in return. The streets were getting deserted this late in the night, but Mai was happier than ever as she watched him accompany her towards her clan estate. This day had been quite eventful and one which she was grateful for. Her happiness didn't last long when she saw him stop and his expression became deathly cold. Out, he commanded in a cold tone. Mai flinched when 4 Anbu materialized from the shadows like ghosts all around them. Her hand itched towards the secret kunai pouch hidden inside her dress, but something made her pause when these men didn't attack them outright. This is no time to be lurking outside, Namikaze, hissed the tallest Anbu in the group. At once all 4 of them unleashed their K intent, which made her grab her kunai swiftly. Seeing her move, one of the Anbus unleashed his own weapon in return, only for Naruto to step in between and glare at him. You dedicated your life to the village. You're gonna risk getting K for that monster? Asked the tallest Anbu in a mocking surprise. The real one had by now teleported behind the tallest Anbu and had placed his hand over the man's shoulder. No, but you will. Mai tensed when she saw Naruto's red eyes glaring at the Anbus with AM glare. Choose your friends wisely, Namikaze. You don't want to end up on the losing side, cursed the tall Anbu. In an instant the entire squad vanished in a puff of smoke, leaving a shocked Mai to rush towards Naruto even as his water clones dissolved into the ground. What the hell was that? She asked worriedly. Probably just some jerks. It will be all right, Mai, he reassured her with a smile. Yet in his heart he couldn't help but feel an uneasiness. His sensory powers had made one thing clear about these Anbu, as they all had similar chakra to an extent. They were not here for Mai Terumi, but instead this was a message specifically for him. He had real enemies in this village now, ones that wanted him for their own reasons. He could already think up of a few that could have such intentions. It only made him remember Genjutsu's words that night when the man offered to appoint Naruto as his successor. Do you think I could have appointed you as my successor without the water daimyo's consent? There is a growing schism within the village, one whose roots were born when Kyrgyzstan was formed. The ninja clans, common shinobi and civilians jointly established this nation. My predecessor and I have tried to maintain the fragile balance of power between these factions, but there are those whose views differ. They are not satisfied with my ruling and the reforms I am trying to instill in this village gradually over time, as it would limit their power, said Genjutsu with a worried gaze. Lord Second, do you think these sparks could someday become a full-blown civil war? Is that why you? Whispered Naruto in surprise, earning a proud smile from Genjutsu for being able to arrive at the conclusion the man was hinting at. Yes, I am doing all that I can to prevent that from happening. But in the event I fail, I want you to protect this village. It's clear that isolation is not the way forward as it has been till now. We need allies to protect ourselves, we need to develop our economy, which in turn will only strengthen us as a nation. Our barbaric ways needs to be rectified for the sake of our people, but there are those who revel in them. Those who want to increase their own power even at the cost of the future of our people. These vultures must be stopped, declared Genjutsu fiercely, as he s his hand on his desk. Naruto found himself re-evaluating his opinion of this man completely. Sure, he had his flaws and a part of Naruto's heart could never forgive him for risking Ino's life like he had. But deep in his heart, he could not find anything but respect and admiration for Genjutsu's devotion towards his people. He was a true Mizukage, and Naruto felt some trepidation as he thought about a possibility of him being asked to fill this man's position. If you accept this position, they'll come for you as they are coming for me. You'll always need to watch your back even inside the village. Do you understand? Asked Genjutsu seriously. I swore an oath to defend Kyrgyzstan and I will uphold it at any cost, Lord Second. However, despite my noble lineage, I am still considered as a wild card. The ninja clans barely accept me as one of them, and the common folk have only started respecting me now after my recent victories. In essence, I don't belong to either of these important groups. Don't you think choosing me as your successor would only widen the schism between these factions? Questioned Naruto, the uncertainty of that future clearly visible in his worried gaze. It's exactly the reason why I chose you. Your allegiance is not devoted towards one faction or people, instead you are a ninja devoted solely towards this village. I have not made this decision without thought, in fact I have observed you closely ever since you participated in that death match that made you one of the 7 ninja swordsmen. I remember seeing your power in that fight and how you crushed your opponents, and yet you also showed mercy to those that surrendered despite tradition demanding them to be K in the arena. You berated me for my failure that day despite knowing I could have you for offending me. You're better at war than I am, your victories and the way you are changing our shinobi is a proof of that. You're not just a powerful shinobi but a wise one too, son, explained Genjutsu with a proud fatherly smile. And yet there are some things you will need to do if you are to succeed me in the near future. Naruto looked attentively as he sensed a hidden message behind those cryptic words. Continue being victorious on the battlefield, that would ensure the loyalty of the common shinobi and civilians towards you. Develop more closer relationships with the more liberal-minded ninja clans and their leaders, the Yuki, Karatachi and Terumi clans have a positive opinion of you. Start from there, take Mangetsu's help to get inside that noble circle. You'll need strong and powerful allies if you are to have any chance of succeeding me and actually being able to maintain that position afterwards. And one more thing, I know this might seem personal and not the right time, but I need to say this. You will have to marry again as the village will not allow the Namikaze clan to go extinct if something happened to you. The clan heads are also pushing me to have you married to their daughters. It's dirty politics but none of us can avoid it. I would suggest you find someone you actually care about rather than be forced to marry a stranger. The Mizukage's words still rang clear as a bell in his heart even in this cold night as he glanced at Mei Terumi. Those assholes, cursed Mei, as she came beside him and looked quite pissed. She saw Naruto glancing around but unlike her, his emotions were in check. How can you be so calm, Naruto? People like them makes me hate this village sometimes, don't you feel the same? She asked him with a heated glare. The village may have its flaws but was still shinobi of the mist, answered Naruto calmly. Her anger could not stand any chance against his conviction as she gave him a respectful nod. She looked back at him when he placed a gentle hand upon her shoulder. Things will change for the better, Mei. I'll make it happen. Kirigakure's history and its culture didn't give her much confidence but a part of her heart still wanted to believe him nonetheless. His confident smile and that determined gaze of his made her smile as well. Only one wish was born in her heart as she watched him walk in front of her. I truly wish I can see this better world that you speak of, Naruto. Naruto found himself facing the finest warriors of Kirigakure alongside its most terrifying weapon of mass destruction. The sight would have made most think about getting into any altercation, yet it only filled him with a sense of eagerness. There was nothing like a good fight. He blinked on realizing the direction of his thoughts, as he was usually more composed than this. Why was he feeling the desire to K? The burning sensation of inflicting pain. He glanced at Muramasa firmly held in his right hand and felt it to be completely in sync with his chakra without any intent to disturb his thoughts. He then realized a strange sensation. It felt like something was behind him, a cold sense of dread and haunting. The emptiness. He had felt something awaken inside of him on that mountain that night. He still remembered that agony he had felt, the sheer rage to burn down the entire world to ashes for all it had taken from him. He probably would have gone through with it had Tobirama not saved Ino. Yet in that deepest pit of despair, he had felt connected to something primal. It had echoed with his pain and embraced him in its darkness, granting something in return for taking away a part of his soul. The proof of which now lied right in front of his eyes. His red eyes could now see the various forms of energy lurking inside of his opponents. Granted, he had always been able to see chakra before whenever he activated his imperfect Sharingan, but this time was different. That energy had a life of its own shaped by the soul of its vessel. Haku's was the purest like a peaceful lake showing contentment and happiness. Mangetsu's was full of determination yet was also quite relaxed, Zabuza had a yearning for something powerful, Kisam's was cold and sharp, Amayuri's was full of rage and hatred, while Jinpachi's was one of ruthlessness. He could also see the sheer amount of energy in nature itself that his eyes previously couldn't see, but what he had always felt was there whenever he used Sage Mode. He felt himself more connected to this endless energy than he ever had with anything else. Zabuza and Kisame clasping their hands together in unison was the first move. Water style, water shockwave. Mangetsu narrowed his gaze when the blonde's normal red eyes developed a black slit-colored pattern. His dark chakra rushed forward and transformed into a raging inferno clashing fiercely against the massive body of water. Jinpachi vanished as soon as steam was spread across the training ground, effectively displaying his mastery of the silent technique. Haku followed seconds later alongside Zabuza and Kisame as they all disappeared, much to Mei's surprise. Amayuri blinked when a powerful gust of wind pushed her back and vaporized all the mist spread across the training ground in an instant. Mangetsu grit his teeth in frustration when he saw all four of his comrades had made their own respective crash landings and had not even been able to reach their opponent, who looked at them with the same cold and challenging gaze. He pointed his sword, Kabutawari, towards his opponent, earning a respectful nod from him. The others were about to join in when Haku gestured them to stop when she saw the determined look in her childhood friend's eyes. She saw nearly everyone thought Mangetsu to be insane if he thought himself capable of facing Naruto alone. Yet that very same enemy smiled proudly when Mangetsu charged at him without any hesitation. Mangetsu watched his opponent raising Muramasa towards him, but it didn't slow down his charge in the slightest, much to Naruto's bewilderment before the commander steeled himself. The Namikaze warrior was about to defend against what he presumed would be a very fast approaching strike. His eyes widened when Mangetsu jumped towards him, closing the last distance in an instant before dissolving completely into water that spread all over the commander. So this is your clan's secret technique, thought Naruto, as four Mangetsus emerged from the falling water, with each of them already aiming their respective clone sword across at least one major weak point of his body. The almost non-existent distance between them made the blonde realize he simply didn't have enough time to conjure any defense. If only he could use wind to push his opponents away. As if acting on his will, he felt his eyes flicker and got connected with a strange sense of energy. The next moment all three of Mangetsu's clones were shredded to tiny specks of liquid and the original was sent crashing away. Mangetsu, however, was far from done as the boy backflipped and again rushed towards the blonde, ignoring the injuries across his body due to the wind that had shredded his clones and destroyed some of his skin along with clothes. Water style, water barrage. With a single hand sign, the Hozuki clan air summoned forth a huge salvo of water bullets that raced towards their only target. Naruto performed his own set of hand seals in order to launch a counter-offensive, but only halfway through the process he felt his attack take a life of its own and felt his eyes drawing a chunk of his chakra. A raging wall of fire spread itself between Naruto and the approaching hail of water bullets, effectively saving him from any damage. Mangetsu also had to take a pause when the fire blocked his charge and he saw Naruto seemed shaken by something. "Commander, your eyes are B." Mei's statement made the blonde touch his cheek, only for his fingers to come back B and a disturbing possibility to be revealed to the last Namikaze. Chakra exists in each person and across every fabric of this world. Most ninjas are barely able to use their inner chakra to the fullest of their ability, only a handful sages are able to even access a tiny portion of nature's energy. Yet I am not using Sage Mode right now and I was yet to finish the hand seals for my fire jutsu, even then I could feel my chakra draining and the technique being unleashed. How is that possible? Thought Naruto in shock. In Mangetsu's earlier attack, he had very little time to defend himself and had wished to use the wind energy around him. He had felt his own chakra draining a little but also experienced the nature element bending to his will so effortlessly. "I need to be alone," he whispered hesitantly, not trusting himself or this new power inside of him in this moment. His decision proved even more righteous in his eyes when he clearly felt the emotions in each of his comrades' heart at that choice. Their chakra was an extension of their heart's will and he could see surprise, confusion, disappointment visible in most of them without even looking at their faces. "Commander, we can handle it," protested Mangetsu with a frown. "No, you can't. I doubt even I understand this power flowing through me right now. It's best if I understand it first or risk harming you guys even by mistake," answered Naruto frankly. Before anyone could say something further, the commander vanished in a flash, much to everyone's disappointment. He found himself approaching the only man who could possibly give him some answers. Tobirama merely raised an eyebrow when the blonde appeared inside his residence abruptly via the marking he had engraved in the house. One look at the boy's new red eyes and his rattled expression was enough to convey the situation to the former Hokage. He simply gestured for his son to take a seat, which the boy did a bit reluctantly. Tobirama got them both glasses of water, and only once they were finished did he listen to the whole incident that happened with Naruto this morning. The more he listened, the more he got convinced of the bitter truth. That's the Mangekyo Sharingan, albeit a broken one. A rare power awakened only with those having Uchiha-bi and experiencing the most painful form of grief, revealed Tobirama straightforwardly. Naruto remembered that moment on the mountain when he had grieved for Ino that night, the pain and sorrow he had felt on thinking she was gone. He listened as Tobirama explained about the origin of this power along with the history of the Sage of Six Paths that had been told to him by Hashirama, who in turn learned it from Madara just before the former Uchiha leader left Konoha. You were probably the first to hold the bi of both the Uchiha and Senju, one who lived to his adulthood unlike the others that were killed by either of the clans to prevent such a mix of their precious bloodlines. Tell me, did you feel any pain when your eyes bled when you first used this power today? Asked Tobirama seriously. No. That's probably because you are part Senju and also hold Hashirama's cells inside your body, ones which he shared with you all those years ago while trying to save your life. You also hold mine and Mito's chakra. It reduces the amount of damage any other user would incur while trying to use those eyes. Even so, I would advise not to use this power until the most direst of circumstances if you want to avoid going blind, warned Tobirama, making Naruto swallow nervously as the boy became silent for a few moments. You said it was broken just like I heard my Sharingan was also broken. What does that mean? The Namikaze asked eventually. It's not complete and neither will you ever be able to harness the power of those eyes like a pure bi Uchiha like Madara can. But I believe with this power, one day you'll become the strongest soldier of humanity. Stronger than me, Hashirama or even Madara, said Tobirama with a hopeful but proud smile. How is that possible? Questioned Naruto, unable to understand how he could become the strongest when his power would never be complete or utilized to its fullest potential. I believe your eyes to be the strongest Mangekyo awakened in centuries. It may not allow you to use the traditional powers like other Mangekyo uses, but it helps you connect with something even more primal and all-powerful, chakra. Naruto pursed his lips as those words sank into his heart and he couldn't help but remember what he had experienced just this morning. The Sage of Six Paths wanted to unite humanity by connecting us with chakra. It was supposed to be the medium through which we could come to understand each other's hearts, which would bring us closer. Unfortunately, most of us couldn't harness its true potential and instead used it for more wars. Can you tell what I am feeling right now? Asked Tobirama calmly. Naruto peered at the man with his eyes and felt only one emotion radiating powerfully inside his chakra. Hope. To be able to understand people's hearts without any words or action. That is the greatest power these eyes have given you apart from the ability to utilize chakra to its fullest capacity, a feat only the sage could boast of. If you master this power, it could help you defeat Madara and put an end to this war, suggested Tobirama confidently. Naruto didn't say anything for a few long moments as he tried to process what was revealed to him. Isn't that what Madara is trying to accomplish? He started this war to weaken the great nations with the goal of stealing their tailed beast, which in turn will allow him to perform a technique that shall unite our race, suggested Naruto hesitantly, receiving a harsh glare from his father in return. If you call losing your individuality and becoming a part of a single consciousness a way to peace, then you are wrong, chastised Tobirama, having now gone through the scroll given to Naruto by that crazy Uchiha which detailed his plan of bringing humanity together to fight the Otsutsuki. The Hokage saw his son was still not satisfied even after that harsh rebuke and was still seriously contemplating Madara's plan. Naruto, even if you can feel my emotions and understand me better now thanks to your Mangekyo. You still retain your sense of individual personality and thoughts. What Madara plans to do will rob you and everyone else of independent thoughts and personalities. Each and every living being in this world holds some amount of chakra inside of them. Madara wants to use that as a catalyst and join everyone's consciousness into a single ani. Synthesis, as he calls it, is not the way to save our race. You will no longer be Naruto, and I will no longer be Tobirama if that happens. Our hopes and dreams will vanish, and only the thought of the collective human race will define how we will live the rest of our lives. If that was the true path to peace, then why did the sage not use this option in his time? Why did he choose to let people understand and use chakra on their own? It's because he wanted humanity to find the answer to peace themselves instead of being forced to walk on a path chosen by a single man's will. Insisted Tobirama fiercely. But that led to so many wars and misery, said Naruto sadly, earning a somber nod from his father. It did. Yet that pain and suffering also taught us the value of peace, the value of life. If you truly want to make this world a better place, then use this power of yours to understand people. With your intelligence, I doubt it's impossible for you to bring peace to this world in time, said Tobirama honestly. Even if I can do it and succeed. What about after? What happens to this peace once I'm and not there to maintain it? Asked Naruto despondently, earning a reproachful look from the former Hokage who saw right through him. Don't try to shoulder everything alone, son. Or you'll end up just like Madara. Naruto froze. The implications behind that possibility were quite grave for himself and the world, not something that he could easily dismiss. To his credit, Tobirama stepped forward and laid a comforting hand on his shoulder. You're young, and it's not your fault if you believe you are capable of changing everything that is wrong in this world on your own. I thought like that once too, but we are not immortal. There will come a day when we must rest and leave our dreams to the next generation. It's why you must cultivate those who shall carry your dreams and wishes, advised Tobirama sagely. He was quite pleased when his son gave a nod of approval after a few moments of deliberation. I need a favor, said Naruto hesitantly, earning a small smile from his father. Anything. I need time to understand this power and to establish the 501st. We will need these things if we are to meet Madara in the battlefield and stand any chance of defeating him. This will most probably delay your return to Konoha by another few weeks, as I doubt Genjutsu would risk your safety by sending anybody other than me and the 7 ninja swordsmen as your escort back home, explained Naruto seriously. Tobirama pursed his lips as he did not like the possibilities he would open Konoha to face if he backed Naruto. The war was already going badly for their side without him there to lead his people. His students were trying their best under Hiruzen's leadership, but the boy was up against experienced cages being manipulated by Madara from the shadows. As much as he wanted to believe in Hiruzen, he doubted the young Cage would ever stand a chance against Madara. It's a risky gamble, said Tobirama carefully. The Hokage in him wanted to disregard it, as Konoha would be in unnecessary danger for some more time. Yet the father inside of him could not help but wish to believe in his son. Every plan is, replied Naruto in a grim voice, understanding Tobirama's concerns perfectly but not willing to back down even after seeing the former Hokage's doubts. Tobirama sighed before he looked back at his son and gave him a firm nod. Make sure it is worth the cost, agreed the Hokage, albeit very reluctantly. I will, promised Naruto with a relieved smile, which only alleviated Tobirama's guilt over risking Konoha's safety marginally. 5 weeks later. The past always repeated itself. He couldn't help but think so in this moment, as before him stood another mass of skilled warriors of humanity. Men and women ready to fight and in the service of their nation. The finest warriors of Kirigakure. Each of the 501 shinobi had a proud and determined stare as they looked at him devotedly. They had endured the toughest training course this village had ever seen, a struggle that thousands others couldn't succeed. The largest training ground in the village was the one hosting this historic moment, as thousands of people, ninja and civilian alike, watched this ceremony alongside the Mizukage himself and every noble clan heads as well as military leaders. One among the massive crowd was Kushina Uzumaki, who looked at her soul friend with a nostalgic smile. It made her proud to see her old commander being reborn in this moment, as the look in his eyes was the same the day he took charge of the Spartans. Now, he was going to create history again. 501st. His booming voice echoed across the hearts and souls of each and every person. His war cry instilling a primal wave of pride and courage inside the souls of each ninja as they watched the newest para-special force stand at attention in unison. When there are enemies at your doorstep, one must defend their home with a heart of steel. To look death in the eye and conquer it. To become that sword that defends the motherland. said Naruto fiercely, as he unleashed his famous sword Muramasa in an instant. He pointed it right towards the mass of warriors dressed in dark black combat t-shirts and dark gray combat pants. Each of them proudly wore a dark green cape across their back that had twin wings crossed against each other. You are that sword. Genjutsu saw the stunned silence of the crowd as nearly everyone was hanging on to the commander's each word. Despite being a veteran, the Mizukage himself could not help but feel energized by those passionate words and the conviction present in Naruto's eyes. He could only imagine what those chosen ninjas were feeling. It could probably be the greatest moment of their entire lives. Each of them handpicked by Naruto himself and tested in all the ways possible. To make them ready, Naruto had requested his mission to Konoha to be delayed. It had upset quite a few people in the Land of Fire who were anxiously waiting for Tobirama's return, but Genjutsu trusted his successor, and if he thought the creation of this force held more importance for Kirigakure, then he was willing to have faith in him. Strength and honor, those are our words. Kushina's eyes widened on hearing that, and for a moment his eyes met hers. Even after all this time, your father's words, she whispered in silence, but his now dark red eyes must have read her lips regardless, as his proud smile gave her the answer. Always. Strength and honor, roared the 501st in unison, as each fighter unleashed their sword and pointed them straight forward. Naruto raised his own hand holding Muramasa high in the air before thumping it fiercely across his own heart. For Kirigakure. Kushina was perhaps the only one in the sea of villagers who understood his true intentions when the 501st adopted the same salute that the Spartans once had. A part of her heart had doubted his loyalty towards Azu when the elders briefed her about his independent actions in the past few years. They doubted his absolute loyalty and wanted her to prevent it from becoming a reality. To think, they even ordered her to do whatever necessary. Even after everything he had been through, he still remembered where he came from. He still honored the ninjas who were fighting alongside him, and he still believed in Yahiko Uzumaki's teachings. Looking at the cheering and roars of approval from the villagers of Kiri, she felt one of the greatest regrets of her life, as in their eyes he was now exactly what he should have been in his true home. A hero. Someday, Kushina, the people will see my brother for what he truly is. She fought back her tears when dark chakra was unleashed from Naruto's back until it slowly took the form of wings. The 501st unleashed their own winged devices fully across their backs. In this moment, she felt the chakra of the person who had always believed in him. Even after death, she watched Naruto take to skies alongside the 501st, much to the ever-growing cheers of the entire village. Nagato, your dream is a reality now. Tobirama looked at the group of ninjas gathered inside the Mizukage's office. Apart from Naruto and the 7 swordsmen, the Anbu commander was also present. The former Hokage glanced at his own son, who was attentively staring at the world map laid out on the cage's desk. Naruto, have you finished placing your markers at the checkpoints we discussed? Asked Genjutsu seriously. Yes, my lord, but I can only carry myself and the Hokage at most through a few of them in case of an ambush. The more jumps I take, the weaker my power gets. It's too risky, warned Naruto with a frown. So is having a large armed escort. While the 501st would be a sufficient force to defend the Hokage, you would be much slower and easier to target in a large group. Speed is the key to reaching the task force which Konoha has sent. They know the terrain well and can take you to the hidden leaf much faster, pointed the Anbu commander. May can be an enough power boost for us in such situations, suggested Mangetsu. Absolutely not. We cannot make such a gamble, refuted Genjutsu fiercely. Multiple decoys. Everyone looked at Tobirama on hearing that suggestion, and when the Mizukage nodded, the Senju leader stepped forward and pointed at several routes on the map. The enemy expects this exchange to happen. Intel says they have sent out their finest assassins and special ops teams to ambush us. We can send out 4 groups, each made up of a 7-man team and 1 member playing as my double. The enemy will expect us to take the easiest route or the fastest one, which are here and here, explained Tobirama, as he pointed at a northern route with a way stop at Azu before entering the Land of Fire, and a western one with a way stop in the Land of Waves before entering the Land of Fire. The southern route through Tea Country might be longer, but with them having not allied with any major faction yet, we cannot trust that nation not to turn on us. We would not know the terrain in detail, which is a major problem. That only leaves this route, deduced Naruto, as he pointed at a unique point on the map. It involved hopping across a few small islands from the Land of Water's main continent until they reached the infamous Nagi Island, which was a hub of the worst pirates of the world. For years, the Mist had tolerated their existence due to the shady alliance that faction had with the Water Lord. Rumor was that they paid a huge tribute every year apart from waging war in his name in foreign nations on demand in return for a safe haven. They had a natural protection as the sea all around them was infamously known as the SC. Only the pirates knew how to navigate through those treacherous waters prone to violent storms and monstrous tidal waves. Many fleets had been lost over the centuries trying to navigate that region. No sane man would ever think about taking an important hostage through such a life-threatening route. Realization dawned upon the group as they all looked at each other for a long moment before turning towards the one person who would make that call. Should we take the help of the Water Lord? Maybe he can get the pirates to help us, suggested Haku, and flinched on receiving harsh glares from the men in the room. Those SS would sell us out to the highest bidder. You can't trust a pirate, girl, admonished the Anbu commander in a harsh tone. He's right. The way I see it, Lord Genjutsu, we need to take control of our own land. For long they have been a thorn for many of the coastal villages of our land. Infamy, abductions or extortion, every crime they have committed without impunity, hinted Zabuza with glare. I agree. Some house cleaning is necessary, said Kisum with a smirk. Maybe once we are done with them, we might leave a few alive who would be more than happy to help us achieve our goal in exchange for a merciful death, proposed Amayuri with a cruel smile. Tobarama narrowed his gaze when he felt the vicious chakra from these three and their comrade Jinpachi, who while silent echoed a similar aura. Fools! We need to do this quietly, rebuked the Anbu commander. Genjutsu got up from his seat, which was enough to halt the heated exchange. The Mizukage then walked towards the window and glanced at the peaceful village. Nearby his headquarters, he saw a food stall owner badly abusing his foreign-s, judging from the dark-skinned color of the woman prevalent in the Land of Lightning. One of the many practices established and promoted by their feudal lord, and one that was gladly accepted by many of the noble ninja clans of Kirigakure. If only those fools realized, this practice in itself threatened the very future of their nation. Caste system, corruption. These were few of the fundamental problems plaguing the Land of Water and stood in the way of its greatness. It was a country built on the principal belief of protecting the rich, noble and privileged at the cost of the rest of the nation. Is it a crime not to be special? He could still hear his wife's question to him from when they were young ninja who were trying to understand their strange and cruel world. Natsumi always had a sense of honor and justice by which she lived. It was her dream of a better and more liberal nation that he was aiming to build over the years. One which their son would be proud to be a part of someday. He looked at Mangetsu and was satisfied when his son gave him a confident nod, having already guessed some of Genjutsu's own thoughts. The Mizukage then turned towards Naruto without a shred of doubt in his eyes. Mobilize the 501st. The blonde warrior thumped his fist firmly against his heart as a determined look arrived in his eyes. However, in that same gaze lurked a subtle message that the Mizukage understood very well. After their losses in the First Great Ninja War, Kirigakure had lost its status quo as an equal power stronghold in comparison to the Water Daimyo's court. Their economy was now heavily dependent on the financial aid given by the daimyo, who often used the shinobi for his own means. It wouldn't have been so bad had the Water Lord not been a corrupt man who cared little for the future of his citizens. Many ninjas hated the state of affairs of the beloved nation and the suffering of their fellow countrymen. But none had dared to take any action, yet. My lord, warned Naruto, earning an unflinching nod from the Mizukage. Are you willing to give your heart for this nation? Asked the Mizukage in a stern voice, looking straight into the blonde's very soul through his piercing gaze. Naruto knew exactly what was being asked of him. By doing this, they were sending a strong message to the over-controlling Water Daimyo of their independence and re-establishing the equal status quo that was lost. It would no doubt make Genjutsu a target of the daimyo's ire and every man who aided the Mizukage in this treachery towards the feudal lord. Dealing with village politics and noble clans was one challenge which was already dangerous to his cover and life in the end, picking a fight directly with the most powerful and wealthiest man in the country. But deep in his heart, he felt the same desire for change that he saw in the Mizukage's face. This was a man willing to risk everything for the sake of his nation. His son, his clan, his friends, his comrades, his supporters, and ultimately himself. All for the sake of one dream. All his life he had led troops into battle as a commander, always tasked with getting the impossible done against all odds. Relying only on his own training and the support of his comrades. He had always had to take up the charge to lead and had never once met someone whom he could entrust that very same faith into. Until now. Those who can't anything, won't change anything, answered Naruto fiercely. Tobirama watched Genjutsu smile at that answer and could only see the respect and admiration his son had towards this man. Judging from Naruto's determined look, he was willing to walk into hell itself for this cage, and with good reason. The former Hokage looked at his counterpart and couldn't help but acknowledge his resolve to do what was best for his nation. A determined man like that was bound to draw true ninjas like Naruto to his side, as they were the people that desired to change this world for the better and were willing to lose their humanity for it. No prisoners, no survivors, and this one stays off the records. Nobody should know what happened there, so we can play it as an attack from Kumogaku in retaliation against our invasion of their land. I doubt it would be enough to convince or even satisfy the daimyo, but in a time of war he will think twice before accusing Kirigakura of any treasonous actions against him, explained the Mizukage seriously, earning firm nods from everyone in the room. Genjutsu felt great pride at their confidence in him but looked at his son followed by everyone else with a worried gaze. Make no mistake, gentlemen. This could also result into a hostile conflict with the daimyo who may fiercely oppose our desire to change this nation for a better future. We could all be considered as enemies by the daimyo, a crime punishable by painfully or worse. The same goes for our families and loved ones. Can you live with that? Asked Genjutsu solemnly. When the man looked at him, Tobirama understood why he had been invited for this meeting. Genjutsu knew exactly what he was doing and wanted his support if the friendly alliance they had to build would have any real hope for a future. After the previous Great War, the hidden villages had suffered greatly. That hadn't stopped them from starting another conflict, and the feudal lords had also played an important role in this misery. The water daimyo may very well decide to change the treaty to his tastes if they won the conflict, or break it completely in the event he didn't have his way. Having heard of the man's greed and corruption, along with the state of affairs of this nation, it was a plausible scenario waiting to happen. To avoid that, Kirigakura needed to be viewed as an equal power to the daimyo's court, if another hidden village and its allies backed it. That still didn't change the reality for what it was. A silent coup. Everyone else had also came to the same conclusion as they contemplated the choice they were about to make. Till the very end, father, promised Mangetsu with a proud smile. One by one the other ninjas nodded their consent as Tobirama felt himself witnessing an important historic moment that could change this world in ways none of them could imagine. When everyone was in on the plan, the Mizukage requested Naruto and the 7 ninja swordsmen to brief their respective platoons in the 501st, while the Anbu commander was ordered to prepare the logistics for the operation immediately. Both cages watched them all slowly step outside the office one after another until only they were all alone in the room. This is a bold move, commented Tobirama carefully. I became what I am today with the desire to create a better future. Unfortunately, I lost my way over the years in trying to be politically correct even at the cost of this nation's future. But seeing Naruto's resolve and his courage to stand up for what was right made me realize what needed to be done. If that boy, the last survivor of his clan who had no real support, had the guts to oppose the twisted ways of the ninja clans of this village, then I had no excuse to stop myself from doing what was best for this nation, explained Genjutsu honestly with a smile. Few men accept their mistakes, even fewer that correct them, said Tobirama respectfully. Genjutsu acknowledged that subtle praise with a respectful nod of his own as both cages stepped towards the window and glanced at the disappearing forms of Naruto and the 7 ninja swordsmen. They are the future, Tobirama. It is our duty to build a better world for them, even upon the ashes of our own. The Hokage could not help but agree with his fellow cage's wish. Next day, it was close to midnight when Tobirama found himself trying to equip himself with flexible winged device forward. Once he was ready, he channeled his chakra in a regular flow and in an organized manner as per Naruto's instruction, and was surprised when the wings moved across his back and gently lifted him in the air a bit. At the same time, the Hokage realized how hard it was to keep this concentrated flow of chakra going. It would be really difficult during combat unless the 501st had the skill the Mizukage was so confident about. The 7 ninja swordsmen were also there and were each checking up on their respective platoons on their readiness. Tobirama found himself walking towards his son while the others got ready. He sent a curious glance at the young blonde when he found him sitting on a rock and having a smoke quite casually. Those things might kill you someday, warned Tobirama, as he took up a seat beside the Namikaze. So can 1,000 more threats in this cruel world, retorted Naruto, as he offered the smoke to the Hokage, who politely declined, making the blonde shrug. You seem quite relaxed, commented Tobirama with a pointed gaze. My men are well trained and know what to do. You stay in the rear with Haku and her platoon, the rest of us will make quick work of the pirate camp. I have carried out black ops like this my entire life, if you remember my history, teased Naruto with a cheeky grin. I still feel there is something troubling you. You are trying to hide that behind your calm mask, but I can see it, pointed Tobirama without hesitation, making Naruto sigh. It is not the pirates that concern me. Even if we manage to learn the safest route across the sea to the land of fire from that sector, I'm still concerned about that man. If he ambushes us personally, we're done for, warned Naruto. Are you afraid of him? My current harassment level is not enough to beat him. The 501st will only escort us to the coastal borders of your land before retreating back to Kiri. It would just be you, me and the 7 ninja swordsmen until the Konoha task force arrives to take us safely back to your village. Anything could happen in that long window. Those numerous probabilities concern me since I am the commander of this mission, explained Naruto seriously. I don't know how fast I am with my harassment in comparison to yours, but if we encounter him, then the both of us can face him together. Have faith, reassured Tobirama confidently. It's not his power that frightens me, but his sheer resolve. Those eyes held the gaze of a man willing to toss aside his own humanity and reduce this world to ashes if it helped achieve his dream. We must be willing to set aside our own humanity if we are to stand even a minute chance of defeating him, advised Naruto. Tobirama watched as Naruto got up from his seat and turned towards the men who were now almost ready. Move out. 3 hours later. Harsh winds blew across the midnight sky and the cold nearly threatened to freeze off Tobirama's balls as he tried his very best to keep himself afloat and follow the formation flying across the sky. They were nearly 4,000 feet high and traveling through clouds, making any chance of detection by anyone on the ground next to impossible. The entire 501st was divided into 8 aerial formations. Naruto led a small squad of 10 troops and acted as their advanced scout team, while the remaining forces were divided into groups of 70 to 75 shinobi, each being led by a member of the 7 ninja swordsmen. Together they had already crossed quite a few smaller islands and were mere minutes away from reaching their target. Nagi Island. Target approaching. Tobirama was still trying to adjust to the unique technology currently attached to the backs of every ninja of their force, sans Naruto, who could fly on his own using his mysterious powers. Kirigakure had been making rapid changes to their military doctrine to win this war. The earpiece was one such tool developed to facilitate smooth communication among allied forces. It only allowed short-range radio messages to be relayed, but the former Hokage had no doubt, few years down the line this was going to change the way the shinobi fought their battles. Platoon 1. Establish defensive perimeter across the Pirate Bay. Take out any enemy troops that escape the CQC team's close-quarter combat. Place silencing seals all around this entire area to maintain noise discipline and keep any of the nearby smaller villages from noticing the violence. Haku gave a silent nod on hearing her orders as she gestured for Tobirama and her platoon to follow her lead as they started descending towards the island. Platoons 2, 3 and 4, assault from the coastline. Neutralize enemy combatants and capture their ships. The vessels are not to be damaged under any circumstances. Any non-combatant discovered on those vessels are to be knocked out and escorted to safety. Am I clear? Zabuza, Jinpachi and Amayuri looked at each other since the question was directed at them. They had been itching for another fight after their last mission, and their leader's orders would restrict the fun, especially if they had to save any civilians being held as or hostages by the pirates. The 3 platoon leaders did not voice any objection though, knowing well that going against orders was not something Naruto would tolerate. Considering they had to this quietly, there was no other chance. Moments later, the respective platoons broke off to carry out their orders. Platoons 5 and 6, assault from the western and eastern borders of the bay respectively. The southern route facing the sea will be covered by Zabuza and the others. I'll strike from the north, commanded Naruto over the channel. Mangetsu and Kisame nodded at each other before parting in their respective directions alongside their followers. When they were all gone, Naruto turned towards his scout team made up of 10 ninjas. The most interesting thing about these men and women that made them stand apart from the others was their dangerous marksmanship and hyper-fast flying speed using the forward. As they descended towards the ground, he couldn't help but remember that mission from all those years ago. He had been a different ninja back then who had believed in his abilities and those of his troops a bit too much. He had been too blind and had given more importance in successfully completing his mission even if it meant endangering the lives of his men. Now that he thought about it, if given a chance to redo things, he would have abandoned that plan to save Hashirama all those years ago. The fact that the Senju leader a short while after being rescued nearly made the of his Spartans pointless. He would have willingly faced the gallows for disobeying orders of the Azu leadership that day if it meant the survival of his brother and comrades. The way Azu had treated him afterwards despite following the rules and accomplishing the mission albeit at a severe cost, was a stark reality of this cruel world. Putting aside those grim thoughts, he focused on his current mission as the ground started becoming closer and closer. He could see the dozens upon dozens of shacks, houses, barracks and even a tavern and some blacksmith shops among other targets of opportunity. His now red eyes searched for the other platoons and saw they were now almost ready in their respective positions. Were ready. Haku's confirmation was the signal he needed as it signified the silencing seals had been placed across a 30-kilometer radius around the pirate bay. It would prevent any sound from escaping this zone to the nearby villages at any cost. He turned towards the ninjas following him. Begin strafing run. The poison bombs first over the barracks and docks, followed by providing air support to any platoons in need. Clear? He asked seriously. We won't let you down, Commander. He nodded in acknowledgement before focusing upon the main entrance to the bay. The gate was heavily fortified and guarded with a large amount of enemy presence. Are you sure you want to do that on your own? Asked one of the female ninja nervously. He heard a few others silently curse her for asking such a dubious question, but to her relief she only received a reassuring smile from Naruto instead of a harsh rebuke that the others were expecting. Let's end this, he encouraged with a determined gaze, earning firm nods from the ninjas as well. They're here. Several shadows emerged from the ocean at his words without making any noise. Wordlessly, they took up positions facing towards the pirate bay, watching in silence as the Kiri forces surrounded the hopelessly ignorant pirates. If only they knew, they were not the hunter, but the prey. He couldn't help but smile sadistically as he heard weapons being unlocked and readied. There was a finesse with which these warriors got ready, a legacy of the brutal training. Their blank eyes waiting for him to give the order to attack, their own thoughts and feelings on the upcoming battle having long since vanished alongside their personalities. K-machines. He watched as one of the redheads stepped in front of the group of warriors on his command. The young boy watched 3 platoons led by Zabuza, Jinpachi and Amayuri landing on the southern flank in order to storm the pirate bay via its harbor. He raised his right hand, making the other warriors around him point their weapons forward. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.